But back to the war itself, 3 weeks in, again, minimal gains by the Russian army in the past 24 hours, but they're still slowly advancing. They have, though, had some successes. They've shot dead 10 civilians lining up for bread. They've bombed a drama centre used as a shelter. We don't know how many civilians are dead under the rubble. And meanwhile, the Russian troops are still trying to cut off the capital, Kyiv. They're reaching some of the outer suburbs. Now, I've said this war is our business too, and not just because it is evil, and not just because the results are felt even here, higher petrol prices just for a start. You see, backing Russia is China, watching on, getting clues to how it will fight its next war. In fact, Chinese journalists, if that's what they really are embedded with Russian forces. Joining me from Kyiv is someone who was warning about China, who ran Ukraine's Free Hong Kong Centre, warning about China for some time. Suddenly now he has China's Russian allies bombarding his city. Arthur Karatonov is president of the Liberal Democratic League of Ukraine. Now, Arthur, you've been campaigning for some time against China's takeover of Hong Kong. You know, it's just so upset me how easily the West let that happen. These total crushing of free speech there. I've got someone I know who's been on the show a few times now in jail, a newspaper publisher, for instance. You have actually got Russia trying to take over Ukraine, backed by the same Chinese regime that you fought. Do you see a link here?
Yeah, I could see it. And actually, when China imposed a national security law, which is absolutely disgusting, we called it the second occupation of Crimea within the frames of international law. And of course, all my heart is for my Hong Kong friends right now imprisoned in Chinese communist prisons. So we are saying this like hybrid occupation of Hong Kong. But parallels, what I could do is like about Ukraine and Taiwan, because what happened to Hong Kong is actually the same somehow what happened towards Crimea when it was occupied by Russia and no real reactions from the side of the West. And yesterday we heard like such a speech from Boris Johnson in the UK, who told that we acted not enough to secure Ukraine after the occupation of Crimea and the beginning of war in 2014. So when China actually occupied in hybrid way Hong Kong, there is no reaction too. And I could see this change. So probably, like, if Ukraine will lose, Taiwan will be next. So everything is connected. And we need to have very, very strong action altogether, because it's our last chance to prevent the real global war.
So kudos today to four very brave political leaders who went to the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, being bombarded. They put their bodies on the line to show solidarity, to dare Russia to kill them too. Now, bravo, the Prime Minister of Poland and his Deputy Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of the Czech Republic and the Prime Minister of Slovenia. What guts, good on you. But in America, President Joe Biden still refuses to hand over to Ukraine the 38 fighter jets that Poland is donating to Ukraine, that it wants, it needs. Biden's officers, his Secretary of State, for instance, they want them sent. Biden is too scared of provoking Russia. In fact, what Biden's also seems even more scared of is Americans blaming him for petrol prices now rising. He's even got TikTok influencers briefed by his top officials to go spread the word, don't blame Joe, blame Russia, and it's working.
Why is gas so expensive, and why is the United States inflation rate at a 4-time decade high? I had the opportunity to ask the White House why gas down the street is $7, and here's what they said. The obvious reason: we're getting out of a 2-year pandemic. When use goes up, price goes up.
We're in for so much pain, and it's not just the war in Ukraine sending petrol prices through the roof, past $2.20 now. Do we really think that we could keep up this massive spending boom and not get inflation? Your wages are not just going to be able to keep up. ANZ Bank reckons inflation this year could now hit 5%. Now we've got the Morrison government scrambling to cut living costs, hinting at, cuts in beer excise, petrol excise, anything, or maybe, cut your taxes, something. Joining me is Ross Greenwood, Sky News business editor and host of Business Today. Thanks for your time. How bad do you think inflation is going to get?
significantly worse than where it is right now. Have a look at the United States right now, 40-year highs in inflation, getting out towards 8%. I mean, here in Australia, we're not immune to that. We've got many of the same issues that the US has got, and that was even before really you saw fuel prices going off and going to record levels. So the reality is that Australia has got inflation going up. It's inevitable that the Reserve Bank, even though they told us that they wouldn't touch rates until 2024, that rates will rise this year, not once, not twice, probably 3 times, because right now the Reserve Bank is behind the curve. They've got to catch up and get ahead of it and try and quell the inflation that's coming that they really can't stop by raising interest rates, the cost of money. So there's another cost that starts to rise as well.
Zelensky, right? Now, this is more important news, presentation of news. He is going to present remotely to the US Congress tomorrow, and I think this is going to be fascinating timing that could cause a real problem for Joe Biden, because right now there is bipartisan support in Congress. I don't know how strong it is, you'll tell me, I'm sure, to supply Ukraine with fighter jets. These fighter jets are Russian-supplied jets that were bought from Russia, that Ukrainian pilots could fly right now without training because they're compatible with their air force. Ukraine really needs them. Poland wants to donate them for free, but they want to do it through an American base in Germany. And President Joe Biden has said, against the advice of some of his people, no, I don't want that because that might get us into World War III. So how do you think Volodymyr Zelensky's address to Congress tomorrow is going to play in this critical issue?
Well, look, the best indicator of how wedged the Biden administration is on this is the fact they're already briefing out that there's going to be a huge announcement for more military spending, and they're going to focus on those things that they've already been doing, like funding javelins, helping them try and tackle the Russians in the air without providing those jets. But you're right, there is bipartisan support, strong bipartisan support on Capitol Hill. And this isn't the first time we've seen this. When we looked at the showdown that happened over that legislation about blocking Russian oil imports, and it flew under the radar a bit, but also this discussion around kicking Russia out of the World Trade Organization. This is, again, the White House versus Congress. Congress is pretty split down the middle. And when we're talking about Kamala Harris's constant new slogan of, well, the people are getting what they ordered was a Senate that's 50-50 and even a House that's not that strong Democrat. People wanted moderate approach. And this isn't even what the White House wants. They were hobbled by the Pentagon. They were the ones that came out and said, nope, we're not sending the jets, right after Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, had said, yeah, it's got the green light from us. So I wouldn't say it's actually off the table longer term. What's going to be critical here is Joe Biden going to NATO next week. This could be the start of the decline of the Pax Americana, where we're looking at America becoming less and less influential, NATO really coming together under the influence of the US. But if they start to move on without them, this is after Joe Biden couldn't get Saudi Arabia to return his phone call. This is just unprecedented how hobbled this White House is right now. So they can try and divert attention all they want. But at the end of the day, they're going to be a lot more powerful if they do start working with Congress. Daisy, you only need to look at Twitter to actually realise how weird a lot of people really are. Overnight, Ukraine's heroic president, Volodymyr Zelensky, he got a standing ovation from the US Congress, even before he spoke to it via video. And he also showed incredibly sad, sometimes horrific video of what Russia was doing to his country, including video too graphic to show you here. But you really should see it. And he ended with this dramatic appeal for help from the US President, Joe Biden.
I see no sense in life if it cannot stop the death. And this is my main mission as the leader of my people, great Ukrainians. And as the leader of my nation, I'm addressing the President Biden. You are the leader of the nation, of your great nation. I wish you to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace. Thank you. Slava Ukraini. Thank you for your support.
Daisy, I thought that was such a moving and a powerful and brave and important speech. But I tell you what, on Twitter, people see the world so weirdly. This must surely be the worst take from the chief economist of a US broking firm. I understand times are hard, but doesn't the president of the Ukraine own a suit? I don't have much respect for current members of the US Congress either, but I still wouldn't address them wearing a T-shirt. I wouldn't want to disrespect the institution of the United States. I mean, Daisy, how did that little tweet go down?
Well, Andrew, that little tweet went down about as badly as a tweet can possibly go down. And the reason we know this is that there's a kind of unofficial system on Twitter to tell whether a tweet has done well or bad, and it's called the ratio system. That you always want to have a good ratio of likes to comments. You always want more likes than comments, because that means more people approve of the tweet than are motivated to comment disparagingly underneath it. So you always want more likes than comments. If it's the other way around, it means the take hasn't landed extremely well. With this particular take, we can see it got about 6,500 likes, which would seem like a lot until you look at how many comments it has, which is 88.4 thousand comments. All of them negative compared to 6,500 likes. So this understandably went down extremely poorly. And no wonder, because as you say, just what a weird, stupid thing to say. Why would it even occur to this guy to tweet that? And I think it's reflective of the fact, Andrew, we live in a culture and have for some time where it seems to be the done thing to post every single little thought that you have on the internet. And it started with my generation, the millennials, but now everyone seems to do it. So this is one of those things that maybe you think in an idle thought bubble, but you don't tweet it. You don't say that publicly. You keep it in your head because it was in terrible taste. And as you say, people on the internet see the world so strangely, in very poor taste. And normally I really don't like it when people are piled on Twitter. But if anything deserves to be ratioed, it is that tweet.
Joining me is Pauline Hanson, leader of One Nation. Pauline, thanks for your time. Now, look, you bonded with Kimberley Kitching on a trip to Afghanistan, and she then afterwards would drop into your office for a cup of tea. Now, Kimberley told me she reached out to you, not just because she liked your guts and your plain speaking, but let's be honest, Labor also needed to learn to talk to you because you got 2 votes in the Senate and talk to your voters, many of them potentially Labor voters. Did Penny Wong, Labor's leader in the Senate, ever reach out to you like Kimberley did?
No way in the wide world. She hates my guts, to be honest and frank about it. She can't stand a bar of me. Actually, the only time she actually said anything to me was after I voted against the government on the Insurance Integrity Bill. And she said, thank you. And I said, Penny, I don't need thanks from you. I said I did what I thought was right for the Australian people in voting down this bill. And I think maybe one other time, it's hard to remember, but no more than twice that she's ever acknowledged me or spoken to me in nearly 6 years in that parliament.
I find that absolutely astonishing, Pauline, because obviously as leader of the Senate, Penny Wong's job is to reach out and try to get a consensus going, try to get votes. You hold 2 votes, your party, and she didn't reach out to you. I find that just a really scary sign of future Labor government. Now,
she is the opposition leader. Andrew, she's not the leader of the Senate, she's the opposition leader. And the fact is, for Labor to get anything up...
But she's got to get Labor votes.
Yeah, Labor's leaders, right. But correct. Now, you see, on the government side, they need my votes. They need 3 extra votes. I control 2 of those votes with myself and Malcolm Roberts. They need 3. But if the Labor wants to get anything up, they have to have my vote. No, they have to get everyone. They have to get Labor, the Greens and all the crossbench to get anything up. So they have to. But Penny Wong has never spoken to me personally to actually encourage me or explain to me why I should be voting with the Labor. They always get whether Kimberley spoke to me, but she didn't come to my office purely for that. That was not about, Kimberley. Or Deb O'Neill would approach me personally about any bill she's putting up. And another one that I get on extremely well with and I have so much time for is Glenn Stirl from Western Australia and even Tony Sheldon. So these are decent people that actually do spend the time with me. On the opposition side, not only Penny Wong, there's some other female members in that parliament who are just so pathetic. They are so anti-me. It's not about working together. What Albanese says, your opening statements about, pulling us all together, what a load of bunkum, what a load of rubbish that is. It's not about, because it doesn't happen in the Senate. I'm there regardless, without fear or favour, working towards what I think is right for the country. I'm not Liberal-aligned. I'm not Labor-aligned. I'm there to work, but they don't. They have a different attitude to it than what I do.